She entered my room at midnight, and her request was irresistibly seductive. Midnight disruption. Elian Mercer's eyes burned from staring at holographic schematics for the past 14 hours. The clock on his workstation blinked R00, officially marking another day aboard the research vessel Athena, humanity's pride in deep space exploration. The quantum stabilizers weren't aligning properly, and if he couldn't solve the problem soon, tomorrow's experiments would be delayed again. He rubbed his temples, the soft blue glow of his workspace the only illumination in his quarters. Everyone else was asleep, leaving the gentle hum of the ship's systems as his only companion. That's when he heard it, the soft whoosh of his door sliding open. "Working hours ended 6 hours ago," he said without looking up, assuming it was one of the night shift engineers checking in. "Then I suppose we're both breaking protocol." The voice was melodic, with an accent that seemed to dance between syllables. Elian spun around, nearly knocking over his cooling cup of synthetic coffee. Standing in his doorway was Neria, the Zephyrian ambassador who had boarded the Athena 3 days ago. Her skin was a rich purple that seemed to shimmer under the dim lighting, silver-flecked eyes regarding him with curious intensity. Her silver-white hair was braided intricately down her back, and she wore a flowing diplomatic robe that accentuated her tall, elegant frame. "Ambassador," Elian stood abruptly, suddenly aware of his disheveled appearance. "I wasn't expecting—" "Is there something wrong with your quarters?" Neria stepped inside, allowing the door to close behind her. "My quarters are perfect. It's my peace of mind that's lacking." She moved closer, studying the equations floating in the air between them. "You're attempting to stabilize a quantum matrix using outdated human methodology." Elian raised an eyebrow. "With all due respect, Ambassador, quantum mechanics is hardly your diplomatic specialty." A smile played at her lips. "Before I was chosen to represent my people, I spent 60 years as a theoretical physicist. Your equations are elegant but flawed." She reached toward the hologram, her fingers trailing through the light. The proximity sent a strange warmth through Elian's chest. Zephyrians rarely initiated close contact with humans. "Why are you really here, Ambassador?" Elian asked softly. "It can't be to correct my equations at midnight." Neria's expression shifted, vulnerability briefly replacing her diplomatic composure. "I need your help, Elian Mercer, and what I'm about to ask could cost us both everything." Her silver-flecked eyes held his gaze, and Elian felt something shift in the atmosphere between them, a tension that had nothing to do with politics and everything to do with the way she had said his name. "I'm listening," he said, suddenly aware that whatever came next would irrevocably change the routine he'd carefully maintained for 3 years aboard the Athena. Neria glanced at his locked door and lowered her voice. "What I need cannot be spoken of here. Will you walk with me to the observation deck? I promise to explain everything." Against his better judgment, Elian nodded. As they left his quarters, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was walking into something far more complicated than quantum physics. Dangerous proposition. The observation deck was deserted at this hour, a vast circular room with transparent ceiling panels that revealed the breathtaking expanse of stars. The Athena was currently passing through the Cygnus Nebula, bathing the deck in a soft purple glow that complemented Neria's skin. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she whispered, staring upward. "My people have a saying that stars are the memories of the universe, watching over all of us." Elian stood beside her, close enough to catch the subtle scent of something like lavender and ozone emanating from her. "Ambassador." "Neria," she corrected him. "When we're alone, I'd prefer you use my name." "Neria," he repeated, the name feeling intimate on his tongue. "You didn't bring me here for stargazing." She turned to face him, her expression serious. 3 months ago, my government received intelligence about a weapon being developed in secret, a quantum disruption device capable of collapsing the artificial wormholes that connect our civilizations." Elian frowned. "That's impossible. The energy required would be achievable if someone had access to resonance crystals from my homeworld combined with your quantum stabilization technology." Her eyes searched his. "The same technology you've been perfecting?" Realization dawned on Elian. "You think someone on the Athena is involved?" Neria nodded slowly. "I believe the proof is hidden in the ship's restricted archives, data that only someone with your clearance could access without triggering alarms." "What you're asking is treason," Elian said quietly, though without anger. If you're wrong, I lose everything. If you're right. He didn't finish the sentence. She stepped closer, her hand hesitantly reaching for his. Her fingers were warm against his skin, sending an unexpected current through him. I wouldn't ask if lives weren't at stake. My people, your people, we've built peace over decades. This weapon would destroy everything. Elian looked down at their joined hands, her purple skin against his tan complexion. Why me? There are other engineers with the same clearance. Neria's eyes softened. Because I've watched you. You question things. You stay awake solving problems others have abandoned and... She hesitated. Because when I entered the diplomatic reception 3 days ago, you were the only human who looked at me and saw a person, not an alien curiosity. The admission hung between them, more revealing than she perhaps intended. Elian felt a pull toward her that defied explanation, a connection that seemed to transcend their brief acquaintance. If we're caught, he began. We won't be, she interrupted, squeezing his hand gently. I have ways of moving unseen. It's why I came to your quarters when everyone was sleeping. Elian took a deep breath. The central data core is on level 7. We'd need to access it during the system's maintenance cycle at 0300 hours when the security protocols reset. A genuine smile spread across Neria's face, transforming her features from merely beautiful to radiant. Then we have 2 hours to prepare, she said, her voice carrying a hint of excitement beneath the gravity of their situation. As they began planning, Elian couldn't help but wonder if his willingness to help stemmed from duty, curiosity, or the undeniable attraction he felt toward this mysterious woman who had entered his quarters at midnight, with secrets in her eyes. Trust in starlight. The maintenance corridor to level 7 was narrow and dimly lit, forcing Elian and Neria to walk close together. The occasional brush of her arm against his sent a warmth through Elian that had nothing to do with the temperature. You never mentioned what made you transition from physics to diplomacy, he said quietly. As they approached the security checkpoint, Neria's expression turned contemplative. My work on interdimensional theory attracted political attention. When tensions rose between our worlds 20 Earth years ago, I was asked to explain human science to our leaders. I discovered I had a talent for translation, not just of languages, but of perspectives. You gave up your research for politics? Elian couldn't hide his surprise. She smiled softly. I chose peace over equations. Though sometimes I miss the simplicity of mathematics. Emotions and alliances are far more unpredictable variables. Elian stopped at the security panel, fingers hovering over the interface. Speaking of unpredictable variables, this will log my ID. There's no turning back after this. Neria placed her hand on his shoulder, the touch gentle yet grounding. You can still walk away, Elian. Return to your quarters, forget tonight happened. He turned to face her, struck by the sincerity in her silver-flecked eyes. And leave you to break into highly secured areas alone? Not a chance. The smile she gave him made his decision worthwhile. Elian entered his credentials and the door slid open with a soft hiss. The central data core hummed with energy, a massive column of crystalline memory banks stretching from floor to ceiling, pulsing with blue light. We have 18 minutes before the maintenance cycle ends, Elian said, connecting his personal device to the main terminal. Neria moved to his side, her proximity both distracting and comforting. Search for any communications regarding resonance crystal shipments from Zephyr to Earth outposts. As Elian worked, Neria's hand occasionally brushed against his, each contact sending small electric currents through him. The air between them seemed charged with something beyond the gravity of their mission. Tell me about your home, Elian said as the search algorithms ran. Not the diplomatic version, the real one. Her eyes softened with memory. I grew up near the crystal lakes of Zephyria. The water there reflects the twin moons, creating patterns of light that dance across the surface at night. She looked at him with unexpected vulnerability. I used to sneak out after curfew just to watch the lights, much like I'm sneaking around with you now. Elian laughed softly. So you've always been a rule breaker? Only when the rules prevent discovery, she replied, her eyes holding his gaze longer than necessary. The terminal chimed, breaking the moment. Elian's expression darkened as he read the data. You were right. Someone's been sending encrypted shipment manifests for resonance crystals, directly to a research facility on Europa. Neria leaned closer, her shoulder pressing against his as she studied the screen. The authorization code. It's from Admiral Trevane. Elian felt the blood drain from his face. The Admiral? But he's been the strongest advocate for human-Zephyrian relations. Sometimes, Neria said softly, those who speak loudest for peace are most prepared for war. The light suddenly shifted to red, and a low alarm began to sound. Someone's overridden the maintenance cycle, Elian whispered urgently. We need to leave now. As they disconnected and hurried toward the exit, Neria stumbled. Elian caught her instinctively, his arms encircling her waist. Their faces were inches apart, her breath warm against his cheek. I'm sorry I involved you in this, she whispered, her eyes searching his. I'm not, Elian replied, surprised by the truth in his words. For a heartbeat, the alarm seemed to fade away. Then reality returned and they ran, their shared secret binding them together in ways neither had anticipated when the night began. Forbidden knowledge, quick in here. Elian pulled Neria into a maintenance closet as security personnel rushed past. In the cramped space, they stood pressed together, their breathing synchronized as they listened for footsteps to fade. The closet was barely large enough for one person, let alone two. Neria's body was flush against his, her warmth seeping through the thin fabric of his uniform. Elian tried to focus on their predicament rather than the intoxicating proximity of her. Do you think they know it was us? She whispered, her lips close to his ear. The system logs my ID, but the alarm was too quick. Someone was already monitoring the core. Elian's voice was low. Admiral Trevane must have safeguards we didn't anticipate. Neria shifted slightly, causing her hand to brush against his chest. Even in danger, Elian couldn't ignore the electricity of her touch. We have the data, she said. We need to analyze it somewhere secure. When silence settled in the corridor, they slipped out and made their way to an unused research lab on the lower deck. Elian locked the door and activated privacy protocols while Neria connected their stolen data to the isolated terminal. Look at this. She pointed to a series of calculations on the screen. These aren't just weapon schematics. This is a blueprint for targeted wormhole collapse that would strand the Zephyrian diplomatic fleet in Earth space while simultaneously cutting off Earth's outposts in our territory. Elian's mind raced through implications. It's not just a weapon, it's the first move in a war. Hostages on both sides. Mutual destruction, Neria whispered, her voice tight with emotion. Everything we've worked for. Elian placed his hand over hers on the terminal, a gesture of comfort that quickly became something more when she turned her palm upward to intertwine their fingers. There's more, he said, scrolling through the files. Communications between Trevane and someone on your side, someone high-ranking. He turned to her, searching her face. Did you know? Pain flashed across her features. I suspected there were conspirators among my people, but I didn't know who. Her fingers tightened around his. My government sent me here because transmissions were traced to the Athena, but they don't know the extent of the conspiracy. We need to contact someone we trust, Elian said. But who? Neria's silver-flecked eyes held his. At this point, I only trust you. The confession hung between them, weighted with implications that extended beyond their mission. Elian found himself drawing closer to her, the danger they faced stripping away pretenses. Neria, why did you really come to my quarters tonight? You could have approached any engineer with clearance. She hesitated, vulnerability replacing her diplomatic poise. Because in the 3 days since I arrived, you were the only one who looked at my work instead of my appearance. The only one who debated theoretical physics with me without condescension. Her voice softened. And because when you look at me, I feel seen in ways I haven't in decades. The admission broke something open between them. Elian's hand moved to her cheek, his thumb gently tracing the curve of her jaw. I've never met anyone like you, he confessed. When their lips met, it felt inevitable, a culmination of tension and connection that had been building since she appeared in his doorway. Her lips were soft, warmer than human temperature, and she tasted faintly of starlight and something uniquely Zephyrian. His arms encircled her waist as hers wound around his neck, pulling him closer. The kiss deepened, transcending species and duty and danger. For precious moments, they were simply two beings finding solace in each other's arms. When they finally parted, breathless and dizzy, the reality of their situation came rushing back. The terminal beeped with an incoming security alert. They're searching all decks, Elian said, reading the message. We don't have much time. Neria's eyes, though concerned, held a newfound determination. Then we need to make every moment count, she said, her voice carrying double meaning that sent warmth through Elian's chest. Together they turned back to the data, their shoulders touching as they worked to unravel the conspiracy, now fighting not just for their peoples, but for a future where what had just blossomed between them might have a chance to grow. Dawn's promise. The ship's artificial dawn cycle began to illuminate the corridors as Elian and Neria made their way to the communications hub. They had spent the night piecing together the conspiracy. Admiral Trevane was working with Magistrate Ferox of the Zephyrian Council to orchestrate a controlled conflict that would allow both conspirators to seize power during the chaos. If we broadcast this evidence to both our governments simultaneously, neither side can cover it up, Elian said as they hurried through the gradually brightening passageways. Neria nodded, though worry creased her brow. But we'll be revealing ourselves as well. Your career, my diplomatic status. Elian stopped, pulling her into an alcove. With the soft glow of artificial dawn illuminating her purple skin, she looked ethereal. He took her hands in his. Some things are worth sacrificing for. Her silver-flecked eyes searched his. Last night changed everything for me, Elian. I've spent my life serving diplomatic functions, translating between worlds, but never truly connecting to anyone. She squeezed his hands. What we found together, it's rare across any species. Then we fight for it, he said simply. Whatever comes after the transmission. They shared a brief, tender kiss before continuing their journey. At the communications hub, Elian used his emergency override codes to access the interstellar broadcast system. Ready? He asked as they prepared the data package. Instead of answering, Neria pulled something from her diplomatic robes, a small crystalline device. This will encrypt our transmission so Trevane can't block it, she explained, connecting it to the console. As the encryption sequence initiated, alarms blared throughout the ship. Security breach in communications, announced the automated system. All personnel report to stations. We don't have much time, Neria said urgently. The door to the hub slid open, and Admiral Trevane himself stood framed in the entrance, flanked by security officers. His face contorted with rage when he saw them. Mercer, what the hell do you think you're doing? His eyes narrowed as they fell on Neria. Ambassador, this is an unexpected betrayal. The only betrayal here is yours, Admiral, Elian replied steadily, positioning himself protectively in front of Neria. We know about the resonance weapon, about your plans with Magistrate Ferox. Trevane's expression flickered with surprise before hardening. You understand nothing. This isn't about war, it's about control. Humanity needs leverage in this alliance. By threatening millions of lives? Neria stepped forward, her diplomatic training evident in her commanding presence. That's not leverage, it's terrorism. The Admiral signaled his guards. Detain them both. The Zephyrian ambassador has clearly manipulated this officer. Transmission complete, announced the computer system before anyone could move. Triumph flashed across Neria's face. Too late, Admiral. Both our governments have received comprehensive evidence of your conspiracy. It's over. The next few hours passed in a blur of interrogations and communications. Emergency transmissions arrived from Earth Command and the Zephyrian Council, ordering Trevane's immediate arrest and requesting verification of the evidence. By mid-morning, Elian and Neria found themselves standing in the observation deck once more, watching as a security team escorted the Admiral to a detention area. They had been temporarily cleared of wrongdoing, though formal investigations were pending. What happens now? Elian asked quietly, gazing out at the stars. Neria turned to him, morning light casting a gentle glow on her features. Officially, I'll be recalled to Zephyria to testify. You'll face a review board. And unofficially, he reached for her hand. She intertwined her fingers with his, a smile softening her expression. Unofficially, I've requested a permanent diplomatic posting to continue strengthening Zephyrian human relations. Preferably somewhere that needs a quantum physicist's expertise. Elian's heart quickened. The Athena is launching a joint research initiative in the Cygnus sector next month. They'll need both diplomats and engineers. How convenient, Neria murmured, stepping closer to him. Perhaps we could continue our cultural exchange. For diplomatic purposes, of course. Elian smiled, drawing her into his arms. Of course. Strictly professional. As their lips met again, bathed in the light of a new day and countless stars, Elian reflected on how quickly life could change. 24 hours ago, he had been alone with his equations, unaware that his midnight visitor would transform not just his night, but his entire future. By the way, he whispered against her lips, you never did tell me what that urgent request was when you first came to my quarters. Neria laughed softly, the sound musical and warm. To help me save the galaxy, she said with playful seriousness, and perhaps if we were fortunate, to find something worth saving it for. As the Athena continued its journey through the stars, they held each other close, two beings from different worlds who had discovered that some connections transcend the boundaries of species, duty, and even the vast expanse of space itself.